Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Cutter TV for the first of our new shows, the Rumour Mill. Delighted to be joined as ever by G. How are you tonight, G?
I'm good. I'm really, really good. I'm obviously just looking forward to the show and the Rumour Mill. It's something that we've kind of had planned for a while, but probably now is the right time to drop it. Obviously, given the season's over and the transfer window is fast approaching. So yeah, really, really good this end. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Good, thanks, mate. Also delighted that we are joined again, back by popular demand this week after her debut last week with us by Lottie. How are you, Lottie?
I'm good. I'm just glad the season's over. I'm ready for the transfer window. I'm ready for the crazy rumours, and then ready for August to get here and the new season starts.
Ready for silly season. And delighted that we are joined once again by our resident journalist, Chris. How are you, Chris?
I'm well, thank you, Stephen. As Lottie says, very relieved the season's over now, and sort of hoping that better things are on the horizon for Arsenal Football Club this summer. Yeah,
absolutely. So a lot to get through tonight. Obviously, we want to talk rumours, and the season we finished yesterday, and already we are seeing so many rumours, and it's been that way for the last couple of weeks now. And the cynical side of me would say that maybe some of this has been put out as sort of to calm the storm around the protests and stuff. Maybe is it clever PR by the Cronkies, or is there genuine interest in a lot of some of these signings that we're potentially linked with? So we'll play our wee intro video, and then we'll get started.
Arsenal have gone through an entire league campaign without losing. The first time it's
happened. Okay. Evening, everyone. Evening, Ryan. How are you? So obviously we need to start off with yesterday. We did have a match, the final game of the season, and I think it would be a bit remiss if we didn't spend at least the first 45 minutes to an hour of tonight's show talking about it. I'm joking. I think we, very quickly, Chris, what did you make of yesterday's match? I don't want to go into all the detail like we normally would, the lineups and all that sort of stuff. Just we won 2-0. How are you feeling at the end? How are you feeling during it? That sort of thing. Just quick, brief overview.
Yeah, well, it was a dominant performance from Arsenal, wasn't it? Could have even been more than just the 2 goals. And yeah, sort of expected that performance. The fans were back in the stadium, wanted to end the season on a high, and obviously put in an impressive performance, make it 5 out of 5 as well. And yeah, good result. Shame, we couldn't obviously finish above Spurs as well. But it is what it is. It's been a shambles of a season anyway, isn't it? From our point of view, where we're not too bothered about what happens on the last day of the season. And yeah, like I touched on earlier, just happy to see the back of the season now, and hopefully we can have a really strong summer and focus on, getting the business done, and going into next season even more strong. And having a competitive side to take in to the new season with us. So obviously glad we won. It was obviously nice to mark the return of fans with the win at the Emirates. But other than that, not really surprised by it.
Absolutely. And just very quickly, we did it the other night on our short preview show. But who was your player of the season?
I think it's got to be Bukayo Saka. He's been an absolute breath of fresh air every game. He gives 110%. He's a very, very talented young player, and we're very, very lucky to have him. We talk about Phil Foden at Man City and how lucky they are to have a young player like him who's going to go on to do big things at the very top. And it's exactly the same with Saka. Delighted we've got that sort of talent on our hands. He loves the club, like I mentioned, gives absolutely everything on the pitch, and he's been a consistently good for us this season. And when you take into consideration how poor the season has been and how underwhelming it has been, he's always come on and given us a reason to be optimistic.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you. Lottie, I know you went down to the Emirates yesterday, and obviously got reined into the pub conveniently.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the match? What was your sort of
You
feelings
know what?
towards
It was just fantastic to be back around the ground. It was a bit of a nightmare to get in. Kind of jumped off at Arsenal and I ended up walking all the way around the ground to get to the toilet. But it was nice just to have the fans back. And even though I didn't go into the game, it was just that match day vibe. You can't beat it. You absolutely can't beat it, especially in the toilet as well. I mean, it's just so good to be around fans again and not at home sitting on the sofa watching the game on your Jack Jones.
the game itself? Did you think it was a good game, or
Do you know what?
we
We should have scored more. It was good. We were dominant, as Chris said, but we should have scored more. The scoreline should have been at least 4-0. But I think going into the game I was kind of nervous because Brighton was one of our bogey teams. You never know which way it's going to go. I'm just glad we beat them. I found that this season their defense is solid, but they've got nothing going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And very quickly then, your player of the season?
Oh, it's going to have to be Saka. He's had an incredible season. I mean, ESR's had an incredible season as well, but I think Saka's been the driving force behind him as well. He just wants to play constantly. I can't fault him, honestly.
Okay, excellent. I'm not going to bother getting your views, G, because as I say, we talked the other night about your player of the season, and I know you didn't really get to see the game live yesterday, so there's no point wasting time on it. For me, just glad the season's over, as Chris has said as well. And, it's been a bad season. It has, and we need to put it behind us. We need to get some changes made to this squad. I mean, I'm very critical of it, and I've said, for me, 2/3 of this squad isn't good enough. It's not realistically all going to be replaced this window, but we need to be making sort of 6-7 signings this summer, and hopefully, if the Cronkies are true to their word, they'll do something and they'll back the manager. So before we get into the transfers, a couple of wee comments there. Sideline Talk Podcast. Evening, Dan. How are you? Evening, boys and lots. Like and subscribe to these viewers. Hope someone's sensible enough to go for Pereira from West Brom. Maybe even us. Got stuff in his locker. Yeah, I mean, we talked about that after the West Brom game. And we would said that, he's certainly someone as a squad player we would look at. I'm not necessarily sure you would bring him in as a starter, but definitely as a squad player. AFC pressure. It's taken too long to get back into the stadium. Once the limit is removed, we can finally all get back. Yeah, and I mean, from what I'm hearing, it sounds very much that Boris is talking about lifting that next month or the month after. So certainly by the start of the new season, full stadiums again, which would be nice. It's funny because I don't know if anybody's seen the golf last night when I was watching the final round of the USPGA, and the Americans. I mean, there was hundreds of them around the green. When Phil Mickelson was putting on the 18th, just hundreds of them, no masks, nothing, just cramped together. So, you know what? It's working in other places, so maybe it's time we just started getting on with things. They're never true to their word. Fair enough. Gary, I got in early. Hello, Stephen, Lottie, Chris, and G. Evening, Gary. Good you're with us from the start tonight. Call Arteta and tell him to bring in Basuma. And I am hearing that Basuma deal is done. From who about Basuma, if not secret? Okay. Well, I mean, let's get into it. And we'll start off with Basuma. Let me just bring this up here. So, widely reported we're interested in him. G, would you be happy with Basuma coming in?
Yeah, most definitely. Basuma is probably one of about 5 or 6 players that I think Arsenal should target this summer. I think one of the main reasons is that he's Premiership proven. I think for many years we've we've tended to go abroad. We've tended to look elsewhere for talent. But I do really feel at the moment within the Premiership and within the Championship, there is some real quality talent playing at teams, with no disrespect, that are, not of the same magnitude as Arsenal. And I really feel like we have a really good opportunity, at kind of poaching some of this talent. And for me, Basuma is one of them. Now, I think the reservations around Basuma from some fans is that they kind of see him similar or kind of in a similar mold to Partey, and they don't necessarily feel as though the two of them could work in the midfield. But I disagree. I think, both Basuma and Partey, in terms of attributes, they are both physical. They have the physical attributes, they like a tackle, etc., but they do play differently. And for me, I feel as though, Basuma for me would be almost like the ideal partner for Partey. I feel as though at the moment, Partey is kind of in between a little bit of no man's land. He doesn't, we know how he can play. We've seen glimpses of how good he is. And, at Atletico Madrid, he was phenomenal. And I really do feel as though we will see that Partey next season. He's come in, he's transitioned, he's had a lot of injuries, and it's been a difficult season for him. But I feel as though Basuma is the type of player that every team needs. He does the dirty work. He gets stuck in. He breaks up the play. I think he's had the most interceptions across the Premier League than any other player. That's what he does. Plus, he drives forward. He's got a pass on him. But he's got that aggression that I really think that Arsenal are lacking. And I think that's where he's different to Partey. I think Partey is a world-class midfielder. But with Basuma, he has that aggression. And I feel as though that's something we're really missing in the middle. So I feel as though just Basuma by himself in the midfield is not enough. But I do feel as though Basuma beside Partey with an additional midfielder, I think would be phenomenal. So, I've spoken about him previously. I'm so glad Arsenal are interested, and I just hope that, Pepe did his old tapping up at the end of the game. Obviously, he knows Gabriel, and I've heard, I don't know if you can confirm this, Chris, but I've heard that him and Pepe actually share the same agent. So, it looks as though we are very much interested, and, fingers crossed we sign him, because I personally rate him very highly.
Yeah. Okay. Come to you in a wee sec, Chris, just for your feelings on that one. But just noticing quite a few different people in the chat tonight, and that's brilliant. Welcome along to Cannon Chatter. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. Chris, you were saying just before we came on air there about you'd heard a rumour today that obviously his prices dropped a little as well. If for you, is Basuma someone that you think we should be looking at?
Absolutely, and I agreed with everything G said just then. You just mentioned the price drop. I think it was mentioned in one of the national papers a while ago. I'm not sure how true that was. I didn't see it myself. I just saw it on Twitter. I can't see why Brighton would be dropping their price because he's probably their best player. And he certainly put on a show yesterday at the Emirates. He was probably their best player for them yesterday as well. Energetic, box to box, great passer with great vision, knows how to tackle as well. And he's just that typical box to box beast, really. He can do both. He's a great defensive player and a great attacking player who can offer a lot going forward as well. And I just, I'm just imagining him and Partey in the central midfield positions for Arsenal, and I just think that they complement each other really, really well. And as a G also touched on, Premier League proven, and I'm sure we'll sort of dive into a lot more of the transfer talk in a moment. But for me, Premier League proven players, English football proven players who have played in this country, players who have played in the Premier League, know what it takes, know what it includes, know what you have to do to make it in the Premier League. They know what the league is all about. And that's going to be really, really crucial, I think, if Arsenal are to get back to where they want to be and have a successful window. Players that can come in straight away and do a job. There's no sort of, waiting for adjustment to this league. We need players to come in straight away, to get their heads down and just go right from the off, who can make a difference straight away. And Basuma can do that, in my opinion. He's quality in the Premier League, and if he can, with all due respect, do it in a sort of an average Brighton team, then just imagine what he can be like in a strong Arsenal side, maybe going into next season, with other players coming in as well. A top player is my sort of number one target for the centre of midfield as well, maybe, depending on what happens with El Neni, Willock, Xhaka. Might have to bring in another one as well. I know Iowa from Lyon's been mentioned as well, and his price has reportedly dropped, according to some reports in the French media. So, we know we went, after him quite hard in January, and maybe we can look at him again. And those two names would be top quality additions, in my opinion.
Okay, just a quick question there from Riziki Rocket on Twitter. Is he any better than Xhaka, though? I mean, do you think he's better than Xhaka, Chris?
I don't think you can compare the two, really. I think they're two different players. Like I was saying, Basuma is very much an energetic box-to-box midfielder. Can pick out a really good pass. I know Xhaka can do that as well, but passing through the lines and putting people through on goal. We saw Basuma do that. Actually, played a nice pass yesterday to put someone through on goal. He's a tough tackler, a good tackler, and I just think he offers a lot more all round than Xhaka. But I just if you're comparing the two, I think they're two different players, in my opinion. Xhaka is obviously more slow on the ball. He takes his time. He's composed. I think they're two different players, and Basuma offers a lot more, or a lot differently than Xhaka does.
Okay. Lottie, I've deliberately picked this picture because obviously it also contains one of our players who is now on his way back to Madrid. And it was heavily rumoured that Arteta really wants him to stay. Obviously his comments coming out saying that they would have discussions with Madrid, and from all accounts, you read some reports that Madrid are determined to keep him and build sort of around him, but obviously Zidane doesn't favour him, so they're sort of going, well, it depends whether Zidane stays or goes, and the reports are that he's potentially going. But it very much seems that Odegaard is one of Arteta's preferred targets. For you, did he do enough when he was here to warrant spending money on him, or do you think then return to Madrid and keep him there?
Well, Zidane's definitely not going to sell him to us. Full stop. We know that. I think before we blow the money, I think he might need one more season on loan with an option to buy. I think that will be the best way forward with him, because I'm still not too sure. I mean, he's been great this season, but the last few games he's kind of dropped off. But I think definitely one more season on loan with an option to buy.
Okay. I thought he was very good yesterday. I thought he really, he raised his game, and he was, at the end of the match, he was walking around applauding the fans on his own and stuff. And it was it looked very much like a goodbye, like he knew he probably wasn't coming back. But I think, I thought yesterday was probably one of his best games in an Arsenal shirt. GK, loan, don't sign him. So okay. Well, that's sort of the first two players talked about. Comments flying in here, and we don't have time to go through them all. But let's see, kind of some stuff about Saka there. Player of the season, while Pepe has been our best player in 2021. Yeah, I mean Pepe's really proven his worth now. I'm very, very impressed with him recently. Should Saka be selected for England for the Euros, he needs a rest. I think he has been selected. I think, I don't know if anybody's seen Matty Ryan's tweets today. And he commented on it saying, good luck at the Euros. So it looks very much like he has been picked. AFC pressure, Buendia in. Roshan, Monty, who would you have on priority? Odegaard or Buendia or someone else like Awar? So I think, that leads us on to the next one we'll look at, which is strong rumours coming out of Emi Buendia. And I know, Lottie, you are very keen on Emi, so we will get your opinion in a wee sec, but I just want to come to Chris first, because Chris, I didn't actually know until you tweeted out the other day that you actually work down at Norwich as a match day steward or security or something, and you've seen
that's right.
a lot of them.
Yeah, that's right. I'm a match day safety steward at Norwich, and Emi's a player that I'm very familiar with and watch a lot. And I know there's a lot of hype around him, and it's only right that there is a lot of hype around him, because he's a fantastic player. Stephen really is a fantastic player. Easily the best player, the most talented player I've ever seen in a Norwich shirt. He's just a naturally gifted footballer who has everything, and I mentioned it in a tweet I put on a while ago that if you liked Santi Cazorla, you will like Emi Buendia. He's similar height, quick feet, skillful, quick, can beat his player, know where the back of the net is, can pick up an immense pass as well. And he just brings that energy, and he's a very hard worker. I know that someone put in the comments a moment ago, would you rather go for Odegaard or Iowa or Buendia? And Buendia is top of the list for me. And, that's based on what I've seen, not just this season, but last season as well. Even when Norwich got relegated and they had a really poor season, Emi was always that one that stood out from the rest. And, well, this season, I'm not sure exactly what it is, 17 goals, 15 assists or something along those lines. Immense. Fantastic player. Fantastic player. And what I can say is the interest is very real. Very real. And he is a player we're looking at. But speaking to one of the Norwich correspondents today, it's also clear that we're not the only ones interested in him. And this is where it will get a little bit complicated. This is, probably going to mean that this is going to go on for a while during the summer, I would imagine, unless obviously a top club comes in straight away, puts the offer on the table, and Emi's like, yeah, I want to move there. But I think he'll take his time to consider his options as well. Let's talk about Atletico Madrid maybe being interested in him. And again, straight away, that's really strong competition for Arsenal. But as I think it was David Ornstein who reported for The Athletic today, the player, Norwich, have sort of come to an agreement that it is the right time to maybe move on if he is going to get that offer. So it's a waiting game. I personally see it playing out as Arsenal seeing what they can do with Martin Odegaard first, and maybe try and get him back on a loan, if not a permanent. And then that maybe might have an effect on a potential deal for Emi. But one thing that, about Emi is that he also plays as a winger, and that's where he has sort of played for Norwich recently on the right wing. So he's very versatile going forward. So yeah, there's no bid put in yet apparently, and I don't know if anything is imminent with this one. I personally, like I say, I think it will drag on during the summer. Quite a few interested clubs, and we'll just have to wait and see. But he's absolutely a player we are looking at, and I'm pleased with that because I think he'd be a fantastic addition.
Excellent. And you did answer a question there from someone. Let me see, where was it? Does Buendia operate from the right more often, or does he operate more centrally? From what I've seen, he can sort of do both, but I think he is more predominantly from the wing.
Correct.
Lottie,
yeah.
Lottie, I know you want to talk about him, so tell us what you think.
Do you know what? He's everything Chris has said is completely right. I've been watching him all season with Norwich, and he's just been phenomenal. I mean, he's had 15 goals and 17 assists in 39 games. He's basically the Santi Cazorla reincarnated, and it's one player that I want at Arsenal, and I think it's something we are missing. We are definitely missing, but I want him at Arsenal. I want him in that Arsenal shirt, but again, we're competing with Atletico Madrid. We've got no Europe, so it is definitely going to drag out over the summer to see where he goes.
So just flicking through some of these comments here. NDB 30 TV, Ethan, would you keep Ainsley Maitland-Niles? I would try him in the middle or maybe or right back. Your thoughts? Firstly, have you just 24 minutes into the show, have you just turned off AFTV to join us again, like you had the other night? Ainsley Maitland-Niles, I mean, I'll take that one very quickly. For me, it's clear he doesn't want to play as right back. He made that very obvious. And I mean, even Sam Allardyce came out and sort of said, play where you're told to play, and you'll have a decent career. But as a midfielder, I don't think he's at the level we need. So if he's not willing to go in at right back and to try and make a career at right back, I would say, then no, he needs to sort of go to mid to probably lower level of the Premier League. I think is more his sort of level. And it sounds harsh, because I like him, and he's got good character, and the way he takes his penalties and stuff. He's provided some great moments for us. But if we want to be competing at the top, I don't think we will with the likes of Maitland-Niles in midfield. Keith, I'm now sold on Buendia. I'd like to get him in and keep Odegaard on loan. I'm a bit jury out on him, to be fair, especially if it's 40 to 50 million that Real want. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money. It really is. Talking about buying players that will hit the ground running, should we stick to buying players from the Prem and Championship? Well, I mean, we are rumoured. We are rumoured with a lot of them. Just the last word, do you stand on Joe Willock and letting him join Newcastle? We'll come on to that one. That is one we have sort of lined up. I want to look at sort of someone linked to going out of the club. And I think it's a very open secret that this man is on his way out. Lottie, will you miss him?
No. Anybody who watched the last show knows I've had my run-in with him, and I don't like him.
Yeah.
Like, he's done great. He's had 289 games for us, and he's not always been consistent. He's had his bad patches, but I won't be sad to see him go. Okay. I just can't, especially after he cut me up in the back of Hampstead. It's just not. It's not on. I've seen the nasty streak in him, and no. I'm not going to be sad to see him go at all.
G, where do you think he's going to end up?
I'm not too sure. I know, previously he was linked with PSG, Barcelona. So I think he will. I personally think he will go to one of those top European sides, and I think he will do pretty well, to be honest. I just don't think he can cut it in the Premiership anymore. I think, if he goes to a PSG, I think PSG would probably be a really good move for him. I think, no disrespect to the French league, but the competitiveness and the quality is not there across all the teams. Obviously, Lille have gone on to win the French league, which was a surprise. Obviously, nobody probably would have predicted at the beginning of the season. But saying that, PSG generally win it every single year. And I think if you put Bellerin in and around those PSG players, you will definitely, you watch PSG and you will see a player for sure. But in terms of Arsenal, he's just not the same player anymore. The same player that kind of burst on the scene with the potential that he had. Obviously, he had that injury and he's come back and he's just not the same player. I don't have the same feelings with regards to Bellerin as Lottie does. I don't know him personally. I've had no interaction with him. And for me, he's always kind of come across, on the surface as, a really nice guy in terms of the stuff he does off the pitch, etc., within the community. But yeah, it's time to go for me. I've enjoyed watching him over the years. I think he's been a good servant to the club, but I think, from the amount of limited games he's playing, kind of been in and out of the side, I think the writing's on the wall with regards to that one. And I think he will leave this summer as a prediction. And I think he'll end up at probably PSG or Barcelona, somewhere like that.
Okay, excellent. Rizeki's rocket. If Bellerin goes, we need 2 right backs. Chambers not good enough defensively. I mean, yeah, I would agree. I think we probably need to bring in 2, which leads us on then to looking at some right backs. And Chris, I want to get your opinion. Firstly, do you know of any interest in this one? And if so, is it someone you would like to see come to the Emirates? He's one of my favourites in the Championships, and for me, he's the one I want.
Yeah.
Now, I know we're looking at, and we'll talk about another right back target in a wee sec, but for me, it's Max Aarons. That's who I want. He's English. He helps with the homegrown quota. He's young. He knows some of the English boys in the squad already. And for me, he's a phenomenal talent. Any interest, first of all, from Arsenal's point of view? And as I say, is he someone you'd like to see?
Well, yeah, again, another player Arsenal have on their list. Again, the same with Buendia. There's nothing imminent at the minute. No bid has gone in. Just looking at him at the moment, I think there is other right back targets as well. There will be other right back targets, but like you say, Stephen, I mean, the viewers yourselves probably saw the smile that appeared on my face just like when Buendia came up the screen. He's again my first choice for right back, a really talented player who has the potential to go very far. And I just think, yeah, he'd be the perfect fit. Again, he's obviously a player I've been watching a lot. And yeah, I just see him as the ideal replacement for Hector. Obviously, he's got age on his side. He's still young, got a lot of potential and a lot of room to grow and develop. He's quick. He's hardworking, attacking minded. And that's what I like to see from a fullback. But he's also very stable defensively. And as well as all of those things, probably one of the most important attributes you've got to have as a fullback, getting down that pitch is being good at putting the ball in the box, and he's strong on that side of things as well. Just like with Buendia, there's a lot of interest from lots of other clubs in Aarons as well. Tottenham's name seems to be doing the rounds quite a lot with this guy. So again, one thing I will say for any team looking at investing in an Norwich player this summer, their sporting director Stuart Webber made it very clear that they'll have to put their transfer record, a fee on the table for him to answer the phone to them. I think Norwich's record is around 24 million for Ben Godfrey, who moved to Everton last summer. So you're talking at least 35-40 million. But do I think he's worth it? Absolutely. And again, like he is with you, Stephen, my number one choice as well.
Okay. Lottie, obviously Max Aarons is one. The other one is we're heavily linked with is Emerson Royal at Betis, who belongs to Barcelona. Have you seen much of him, or
Not really. I've seen more of Aarons, and do you know what? I'd make him my number one choice to get over here. As we all know, Chambers, he's been all right this season, but I can't help but look at him and wonder when the next injury is going to come along. He's had the same as Bellerin, but he's come off worse. You just don't know.
Yeah,
he's definitely my first choice as well.
G, do you know much about Emerson Royal?
You know what, to be honest, no. I know he's a quality player. I've seen him play, and he is a quality player. I would say he's from what I've seen, I would say he's better offensively than defensively. But for me, I've been an Arsenal supporter for a long time, and I just feel at this point, which I said earlier on in the show, I just want Arsenal to play to buy players that are either Premier League proven or, you know, have excelled in the Championship. It's something that we've not done nowhere near enough. And you know, when you're buying any player, it's a risk. You know, any you know, large transfer fee is a risk. You know, they could get, God forbid, a career-threatening injury. You know, or they might not settle. But if you look at the probability of it, you know, if you're buying players that, you know, are settled in the Premiership, you know, if you're buying English players that, you know, are settled in the Championship, you know, let's face it, the Championship, yeah, there is a lack of quality, but it's a tough division. You know, it's not a walk in the park. You know, players who play in the Championship week in, week out, they've got to be made of something to actually excel and do well. You know, you've got to have something about you. And he's a young lad and he's doing really well. And I just feel as though he's the type of player, along with, you know, the likes of Basuma, you know, I'm in love I am with Grealish. But it's those type of players, you know, your Buendias, that you just think you can see him just slotting straight into the side. It's just, you know, we're not going to have to wait, you know, for a slow burner or for a transitional season, or, you know, the language barrier, or getting used to the culture, buying a new house. All those things have a massive impact. You know, we've seen that with Saliba. You know, we've seen that with Pepe. You know, Pepe is just now beginning to show, you know, why we actually spent that money. And I just think where we are right now, if there is a talent pool of players in the Premiership and the Championship that are going to come into this club, we may have to pay over the odds because they are English, or they're from an English league or from the English Championship. And we know infamously, you know, they cost more. But I'm happy for Arsenal to do that if the money's there for them to pay over the odds and get Premiership or Championship proven players. So in terms of Emerson, I've seen him play and he looks a quality player. But similarly to you, to Lottie and to Chris, Max Aarons for me, it's a no-brainer. It's that simple.
Excellent. Okay. Another quick one there from Rosiki's Rocket. What about Lamprey at Brighton? For me, you know, he had 6 good months at the start of the season and he's had a bad injury. I think he's a bit lightweight. I think he's a bit short. It sounds maybe a bit silly, but I think we need bigger men at the back. And I think he plays better as a wing back than he would as a 4. And I think it's very clear that Arteta wants to play as a 4. And I think that's where the likes of Aarons a little bit better. You know, he can attack, but he also, as Chris says, he's defensively sound as well. Which kind of leads us on then, defensive-wise. One that came out today that's obviously a newish rumour was on this man, Jules Koundé, or as I personally see him, it's Joey from Benidorm. I don't know if anybody remembers the last couple of seasons of Benidorm, but he is the spit of him. Chris, what's your thoughts on this guy?
Well,
you can't understand that now, can you?
No, I can't. Thanks for that, Stephen. No, but joking aside, again, he's a player I must admit, I haven't seen play too much, but I've heard really good things about him. Apparently, he's wanted by a lot of top European clubs. He's going to be on the pricey side as well. I think was it 50 million? 50 million. I don't know. Yeah, it was mentioned in the article from Ornstein this morning. And he's preferably wanting Champions League football as well. But you know, that's not to say it's not going to happen. We've been pleasantly surprised before and have acquired targets without European football or Champions League football. I think he scored a really, really good solo goal not so long back as well. And I remember watching that, and I couldn't actually believe he was a centre back. So it seems like he's technically gifted for a centre back. You know, with the departure of David Luiz, there's still a little bit of speculation around William Saliba as well, and his sort of position next season. Is he going to stay and fight for his place? Will he be given that chance to, you know, play for Arsenal? You know, sort of accompany Gabriel at centre back. We'll have to wait and see. But I definitely think we will need another centre back to come in. I know this guy's still fairly young, and that surprises me a little bit, because when you think about, sort of having Gabriel, Saliba, two young players, and David Luiz leaving, you sort of got to ask yourself, do we need some more sort of experience at the back with those three? So I'm excited that we're linked with him, because, like I say, I've heard some very, very good things about him, and he's obviously doing well to impress a lot of top European clubs around the world. But again, we'll have to wait and see. I think he'll just be one name out of many that we'll be looking at centre back. But as I've said before, preferably and personally, I'd like to see Saliba given a chance and see him partner Gabriel at centre back next season. I understand people have their reservations about it. He's young, he will make mistakes, but let's face it, the best way to learn and to develop as a footballer is by making mistakes. And I know it's not ideal, it will cost us games. It means we'll concede goals, but that is how he's going to get better. And for me, if Wesley Fofana can do it at Leicester, come straight in and play week in, week out, we've all seen how impressive he's been and how solid he's been at the back for Leicester, then there's absolutely no reason Saliba can't come in and do the same. And, before Fofana came onto the scene, they were saying Saliba's, sort of the next best thing coming out of France as a central defender. So he's absolutely got to be given the chance, and I'm really excited to see how things develop for him, actually.
Okay. He's not a player I've seen a massive amount of, but Koundé. But I just think 40 to 50 million, as you rightly say, when we have Saliba and Gunnar Sand there as well, are people forgetting that we have Mavropanos on loan, who's been brilliant at Stuttgart. So he's another one to come back in, and so we have some decent defenders there, and defense has been pretty good this year. 39 goals conceded in the league, which is our lowest in the last sort of 3 or 4 seasons. So it's not, for me, it's not the major priority. Obviously, we need a right back, but the centre of defense is not a major priority. I do think, as you say, Chris, we do need to bring someone in. But whether we spend sort of 40 to 50 million when there's other areas of the pitch, I think we need to strengthen more. GK Koundé started the season off well, but he started making mistakes. Keith, brilliant, Stephen. Yeah, I'm a funny bloke. Koundé is a big no-no. Why, Ryan? Why do you not want Koundé? GK, he was signed from Bordeaux. He could have a bright future, though. I know Fabrizio has said it's tough, but the club should have Hakimi on priority for 40 to 50 million, even if it's remotely possible. You see, for me, Hakimi he's very good going forward, but again, I think he's defensively a little bit lax. And Inter have a good, solid defense, and they weren't troubled as much. And I think their attack made up for the fact that not that they didn't have to defend, but they weren't defending as much because they were so good going forward. Lottie, I mean, for you, Hakimi, is that someone you know much about, or?
From what I've seen and what I've seen on Twitter and stuff, I don't think he's going to leave and come to us at all. He's made that clear from photographs I've seen of Sky and stuff. But if I'm honest with you, I wouldn't buy him. As you said, Inter are very good at going forward. They don't have to do much defensively. So.
All right. Excellent. So going well so far. Plenty discussed, and there's still loads more to talk about. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so we're back. Just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Obviously, we're always sponsored by the matchdayshop.com. Dan down the match day was delighted to get his doors open again yesterday and see some people coming back in. And I know he was down by the stadium as well, selling some hats and scarves and bits and pieces. So obviously, as I always say, if you don't want to give your money to the club, make sure and spend it in Dan's shop. We're also delighted to be sponsored by Sport Bucket Hat, who have a Etsy store, which is just Sport Bucket Hat, and are on Twitter at sport_hat. You may have seen a couple of the bucket hats. I have one here, which was made from an old shirt, and we did a giveaway last week of a nice blue one we had made, and G has one as well, which is a yellow one that I had made out of one of my shirts as well. So Sport Bucket Hat are going to sponsor our Rumour Mill shows. So get on, check their store out, and purchase yourself a nice Sport Bucket Hat. Okay. Quick one there from Gary. Arsenal have enough depth at centre back out on loan. Ballard and McGuinness also could get a look. Yeah, Ballard is at, or is it McGuinness? Is at Blackpool? One is at Blackpool.
Blackpool, yeah.
And it's obviously in the playoff final. Okay, Ryan, I don't see the point in getting Koundé, another young centre-back coming into the club. Something we lacked this season are leaders, and going out getting a young player to replace Luis isn't it? Price tag as well. Okay. All right, Lottie, I'm going to come to you for this one. We're going to look at a player potentially linked to going out with a potential move back to Germany on the cards. Granit Xhaka. I am not going to make any comment during this segment, because everybody knows my feelings on Granit Xhaka. But for you, I mean, firstly, would you miss him? Do you think a move would be good for him, or would you rather see him stay?
Do you know what? I'd quite happily see him go back to the Bundesliga. He's more suited to there. He's got a lot better this season with his discipline and things, but I still don't think he's good enough to wear the shirt. He puts the work in. He's just a bit. He's too slow as well. We need someone a bit quicker. I mean, we all saw the kind of mess he got himself into at the Villarreal games in Spain and here. He just needs to go. Enough is enough.
Okay, Chris. Some sort of questions for you.
Yeah, I mean, with Granit, part of me would be sad to see him go. I think, his commitment can't be questioned. I think he's given it his all. But for me, I would like to see someone else come in and partner party. I think I'd be open to keeping Granit and maybe rotating him from time to time, but I think if a suitable offer comes in, then it's probably time to part ways. I just think, although personally I think we've seen improvements from him under Mikel Arteta, I just think we can do a bit better than him, to be honest. And when the name such as Basuma pops up, I just think he's better in every single aspect, and he would provide a lot more excitement on the pitch. If I'm being honest, Granit's Arsenal career has been full of highs and lows, hasn't it? Controversial moments, and he's provided some really good moments as well. But yeah, like I said, for me, to put it simply, I just think we can do a lot better. And I think we know we need central midfielders to come in. We know we need to improve in that area. And, if we're going to improve in that area, then it's got to be someone who's going to come straight in and be a starter, because we're not going to start benching Partey. He's one of our best players, and he will be one of our most important players going forward. So it means ultimately Xhaka's got to be the one that makes way. And like I say, I'd be open to maybe keeping him and using him as a squad player, rotational player. But if a suitable offer comes in, then we've got to accept. I think obviously there's been a few rumours that he's looking to maybe sort of move on as well. So definitely one to keep an eye on, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's movement on that front this summer.
A couple of people saying there, he was named in the Premier League team of the season today. I do not, for the life of me, know how. And NDB30TV, he wouldn't get into any other top 4 team. And no, I don't think he would. I mean, I said I wasn't going to say anything, but for me, I wouldn't be sad to see him go. I would drive him to the airport if he needed. But that leads us on then to someone we have been linked with as a potential replacement. Obviously, we've talked about Basuma. The other person, again, it's a very young player coming from France, and he has 1 year left in his contract, and that is Camavinga. G, thoughts on Camavinga? Is that someone you'd like to see come to Arsenal?
You know what? Yes and no. And I'll kind of give my rationale as to why. Camavinga is one of those players that if you have the opportunity to sign him, you don't say no. He's the definition of a wonder kid. You often see that. That term floating around like Football Manager and stuff like that. But he is a top talent. Like he really is. Like, I think he's like 18, 19, and he plays so commanding in the middle. He's got everything in terms of like the physical attributes, in terms of the passing, in terms of kind of like dominating, the midfield area. He has it all. The problem for me is the price tag, potentially how much he would go for, and 2, I kind of feel as though we have enough young talent, if that makes sense. I feel as though like there are some areas where I feel like we could or we should invest in younger players. So, bringing in Max Aarons at right back for me makes sense. But in the middle of the park with the way that the shape of the team is and the state of the team, in terms of players, I just couldn't really warrant and legitimize spending 50, 60 million pounds, on a teenager in the middle of that park. And that's a big, personally, I don't think we'll get him. I know there have been like reports saying that, the team around him are pretty solid and they would much prefer him go to a team where he's guaranteed minutes, he's guaranteed game time, so he can continue his development, because his development has been so good because he's playing week in, week out, where he's playing in France. So, he's getting the games, he's getting the minutes, and he's a top class youngster. The problem is he is a youngster. And I just think when I look at Arsenal's first team right now, I look at, some of the players and I think to myself, Gabriel is young and quite raw. We've got Smith Rowe, good, but he's young. Saka is good, but he's young. Martinelli, again, young. And I just think to myself, like, we can't become like we can't become a youth team. And I know the famous quote, you can't win the league with kids. And I know that quote was like blown out of the water. But for me, in terms of playing in the midfield, I just feel like we need somebody who is kind of more towards the prime of their career, kind of like mid to late 20s, top player. But I just feel like with the supposedly limited budget we have, and the state of the team right now, I personally wouldn't sign him. If money wasn't an object, I'd definitely sign him. But that's not the situation we're in. And I just feel as though the money could be spent elsewhere with other targets, Premier League proven players. I keep saying it. But yeah, I don't want anybody to think he's not a class player. And if you've not had the pleasure of watching him, you should definitely go and watch him. But for me, not quite what we need right now. I think if we obviously have a great window, summer, January, maybe even next summer, and in a couple of years' time, we're back in the Champions League and we're firing on all cylinders, he's the type of player I would target at that point. But at the moment, no, not for me.
Okay. Lottie, is Camavinga the sort of person you'd like to see in our midfield?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen much of him, but I'm totally with you on this one. He's a luxury player by the sounds of things, and we don't need that right now. I think we need some more experience. As G said as well, we've got ESR, we've got Saka, got Martinelli.
He's 18.
Yeah. We they're great, don't get me wrong, but we need some more experience if we want to start winning things.
Okay. I just have a comment there from Ryan, just let me find it, which really made me laugh. If Xhaka didn't have the mobility of a cruise ship, he would be top class. Brilliant, Ryan. Brilliant. Xhaka is a school player at best on a league club. It's not about player, just mobility and decision making with a short passing lets him down. The thing with Xhaka, I mean, you saying, Chris, about keeping him as a squad player, I just don't think that Xhaka would want to stay as a squad player. You know, I think because
I agree.
He wants to be playing week in, week out. Given the choice, I would keep El Nani over Xhaka. Seems more consistent overall. Comment there. Would be nice to get Declan Rice. He is developing into one of the best in that position in the Prem. Lottie, what do you think, Declan Rice?
If I'm honest with you, I think I've seen his price tag, and I completely agree with Ryan. He's too expensive.
Okay.
He's too expensive for what he is. So I don't want it. I wouldn't want him at Arsenal. Not at all.
Okay. Keith, agree with G. Potential superstar, but he'd be a luxury player. We don't have space for a luxury right now. I'd pass on him. He'd end up at Barca in 3 years anyway. What's this Camavinga we're talking about? NDB30 TV, I really like Torreira. I thought he was the South American Kante when he joined. If he could stay, that would be really good. I mean, what about you guys? G, would you give Torreira another chance?
You know what? That's one player, you know, that I feel like we've all forgotten about. I have to be completely honest. You know, when he signed for Arsenal, I was actually really looking forward to seeing him play in an Arsenal shirt. I can't remember where we bought him from, but what I do vividly remember is that I watched him play in the World Cup that summer before he signed for Arsenal. He hadn't yet signed for Arsenal, and was it Uruguay he was playing for?
Yeah,
I think it was. Yeah, it was Uruguay.
Signing from Sampdoria.
Sampdoria. He was playing for Uruguay, and I just thought to myself, I saw him, and I just thought, this is the type of player we need. Like, he was just, you know, he had that aggression. You know, he had the aggression. He got around the pitch. He got in people's faces. He liked to tackle. He got stuck in. And at that point, we didn't have a player like that. And I know we were linked with him that whole summer. And then watching him for Uruguay, I thought to myself, when we signed him, I thought, fantastic. I was like, we've got a player on our hands here. And yeah, he seemed to settle in really well. I would always remember that the goal he scored against Spurs. And then I just feel as though a lot of players suffered at Arsenal around that time when we were we're still transitioning, but, you know, different managers kind of coming in and out. And just obviously, you know, the form on the pitch and so forth, suffering. But I feel as though Torreira is one of those players that we could actually, I think there's quite a few, to be honest. I wouldn't actually want to be the guys making, you know, we all sit up here and we have our opinions, but I think Edu and Arteta and the guys at Arsenal have got a really tough job this summer, particularly in that midfield area, because I feel like Torreira is definitely one of those players that he could come back, and I think under the right manager, he's not a bad player. He's a good player, you know, and I feel as though he could potentially be given up an opportunity. In the same breath, it's like he is one of those players that will come with a reasonably good price tag. So he is the type of player that we could, you know, he's got very good selling on value. So he's the type of player we could sell and then bring in the likes of Basuma. So it's a tough one. It's going to be a massive juggling act, because I think Guendouzi is another, you know, Guendouzi, Torreira, and obviously Joe Willock with his form at Newcastle. I think, you know, these are players that we have to make decisions on this summer. But, you know, to answer your question, personally, I don't think Torreira will be here at Arsenal next season. I think he will be sold. But at the same time, if we brought him back and we didn't sign a Basuma, I have to be honest, I'd be pretty pissed off, if I'm honest. But at the same time, he is a player that I do think under the right coach and under the right manager, he could find form again, and he could be a really, really good player for us.
Okay, excellent. Anybody that's tuning in tonight who was hoping to see a bit of take on G and see Chris beat G yet again?
Oh, here we go.
It's not going to happen tonight. Sorry, Chris. We're saving that one for a bit. So we'll have to get you back on another night to beat him.
G's buzzing about that.
He is.
I am.
Gunnar San, what we are missing most, our midfield, is goals. Who can we put next to Party that can produce goals? And that kind of leads us on to, again, a player that we own, who's been having a good run of form. And obviously, you know, the talk is there that if Newcastle offer, anybody offers the right money, that we would let Willock go. Chris, for you, is Willock someone, do you think we could put him into the midfield next to Party and see him flourish, or do you think we should let him go if we get the right opportunity or the right money?
Well, if they offer us 20 million plus Alan St. Maximin, then maybe we can get talking. But no, I think, you know, we know he's been doing absolutely fantastic at Newcastle, 7 goals in 7 games. Fair play to him. You shoot glimpses of his ability and his talent whilst he was here at Arsenal, but you know, it just needed to take it to the next stage. We just weren't seeing enough from him for us to sort of constantly give him those opportunities. And obviously the club in January thought a loan would do him good, and I think that obviously looking at it now, they absolutely made the right decision. So now that brings us to another decision to be made this summer. Do we keep him? Do we sell him? You know, the simple way of putting it for me is if Newcastle offer at least possibly 35 million, because we're talking about a homegrown English player who's still young, who's had a fantastic sort of end to the season and done really well at Newcastle. You know, 35 million for me is fair, and would get some heads turning, get some people thinking at Arsenal, and obviously then that's 35 million we could use towards Basuma or Iowa from Lyon. You know, I still think, despite how Willock has got on at Newcastle, I think it's probably a case because that is more his level at the moment. I think obviously, like I mentioned a moment ago, we know he's very talented. We know he has the potential to improve and get better. But a club like Newcastle suits him. Obviously, their playing style suits him. Obviously, his performances there have shown that. And I just think that, you know, it would be a bit of a risk of us putting trust in him and just assuming that he's going to come back to Arsenal and next season he's going to continue scoring goals, providing assists. We need someone, like I said, who's got a track record of it and who has shown consistently that they can score goals, can provide assists week in, week out. And I just feel that we'd be taking a bit of a risk with Willock. We could, like I say, we could give him that chance next season and say, look, go on there and do what you've done at Newcastle for us. But there's that big chance that he won't, and we would have missed the chance to sign someone better than him this summer. So depending on the price, if we're talking 35, at least 35 million, then I think the club will let him go, and I can kind of see why they do that. I'd probably be behind that. But you know, the fee going around at the moment that Newcastle are potentially going to throw in is around 20 million, and that's nowhere near good enough. Anything below 30 is unacceptable. So we'll have to wait and see if Newcastle want them that badly. I'm sure they'll put money on the table, although I'm sure Steve Bruce will have to do a bit of persuading there. But yeah, if the price is right, let's look to see if we can offload him and then bring someone better in who's consistently shown that they have the ability to, like I say, score goals and get assists from midfield.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Gunnar Sancho will have to stay. I do not see a better replacement for Ceballos. And obviously, Lottie, we've seen your tweet earlier on. Happy to see the back of Ceballos. Do you think Joe Willock is someone who could be replacing, or would you sell Willock as well?
I think if the price is right for Willock, I would sell him to Newcastle. Maybe if they throw in St. Maximin. I think with the right driving force, he'd be behind him. He'd be great at Arsenal. But in terms of Joe, if we got the right price, yeah, no, I'd sell him. But anything lower than 30, I think, is a no. He's a homegrown player.
All right, excellent. All right, let's see. Only a few left on here. One I did see, and I see someone, I think it was Chris, mentioned earlier on, not you, Chris, but Chris, WCFW, World Championship Wrestling Federation, Chris. Rumours today that Madrid have basically said that they'll listen to offers for anybody. And he had mentioned, it was one I had sort of thought of as well, is, you know, what do you guys think about the likes of Hazard as a potential option for the wing? Is that someone you would... Nope. Okay, everybody's shaking their head. No, you know what?
No words needed with that one.
No words needed. All right, G. We'll give you your moment in the sun. Jack Grealish, the man of your dreams.
What can I say?
Do you think that it's worth spending $80 million on him?
This is the problem. You know, this is the problem. You know, when I look at you know, when I look at all the players that we've discussed this evening, I think to myself, realistically, Jack Grealish is not going to happen unless, you know, the Kroenkes do actually, you know, take their wallet out and say, you know what, we're going to do all of this in terms of improving the squad, and then, you know, someone like Jack is going to be, you know, that's our gift, you know, to you Arsenal fans, you know, to get off our back. But unless that happens, it's just not going to happen, because, you know, Jack Grealish is a really sought after player. To prize him away from Aston Villa, I think he only recently signed a new contract about a year or so ago. So Aston Villa don't have to. I kind of see Jack Grealish as a similar situation, not in comparison as players, but a similar situation to the whole Zaha thing, in that I can actually see Jack Grealish staying at Villa for the foreseeable future, because I feel as though, like, him signing that contract, Villa are just going to price him out of a move away from the club, because I don't think there's a single team in the Premiership that is going to pay 80 million for Jack Grealish. I don't think there is a single team in the Premiership right now that, you know, one, can afford to, but even if they could afford to, they already have players in the similar mold to Jack Grealish. You know, when you look at Man City, they've got Foden, they've got De Bruyne. You look at Chelsea, you know, they've got Mount and so forth. So I feel like the teams that could afford him don't need him. And I feel like the teams that potentially need him are not going to fork out that kind of money. But for me personally, you know, he's just a phenomenal player. You know, there are very few players that I actually admire and enjoy watching that don't play for Arsenal. When I was younger, I used to watch a lot of football from Serie A to the Bundesliga to La Liga. But as I've got older, I just watch Arsenal, really. I don't really watch any other games. But, you know, I find myself, I sit at home, and if he's in the Aston Villa lineup, and I know recently he's not been, I watch the game and I enjoy watching him play. You know, he has this aura about him in terms of a player. You know, he doesn't lose the ball. You know, so many times I've been sitting down and I've watched Arsenal and I see us lose possession again and again and again, and it's so frustrating. And he's one of those players that he doesn't lose the ball. The only way to get the ball off him is to foul him. Literally, that's the only way to get the ball off him. I think he's the most fouled player in the Premiership. So he's good at retaining possession. He's good at winning back possession. He can play in multiple positions. He's over the last 2 seasons, he's up there in terms of assists, in terms of goals. And when you look at the impact he has on the Aston Villa side, Aston Villa are a completely different player. A completely different team to when he's in the side and when he's not. And he's one of those players that, again, if he were to come into the Arsenal side, he immediately improves the team for me. Immediately, you know. And again, he's Premiership proven. So I don't think I'll get my dream to see Jack Grealish in an Arsenal shirt. I just don't see it realistically because, you know, when we look at this and we're talking about, you know, Buendia, for example, yes, you know, his stats are better, but he is playing in the Championship, no disrespect to the Championship. But at the same time, it makes sense. Like, why would you spend 80 million on Grealish when you've got, you know, equally as good a player, if not potentially a better player in Buendia for, you know, 40 million? It just doesn't make sense. So I don't think I'm going to get my wish. I don't think I'll ever see Jack Grealish in an Arsenal shirt. I really would love to see it, but it is what it is. You know, if I could have a dream window, he would be part of, you know, a number of Premiership and Championship-based players that would come to Arsenal. But given, you know, the financial climate, the fact that we're not in Europe, you know, a potentially limited budget, and obviously just the state of the squad itself, he's not on top of the list in terms of players that we need at the club right now. But yeah, fantastic player, and I could literally spend the whole life talking about him.
Lottie, Grealish, would you like to see him at Arsenal?
Oh yeah. Do you know what? I'm on the fence about him still. I'm just. He's got the leadership that we're missing, but he's going to be overpriced.
Yeah.
And I've always choose Buendia over him. It just doesn't make that it just makes sense.
Okay. All right. Gunnar Gossip TV, great stream, guys. Love your channel, by the way. You guys work so hard and deserve more praise for your content. Keep it up, guys. Thank you, Sophie. I appreciate that. Rizuki's Rocket, what about striker? That's where we need to buy Dembele. We'll come on to that in a wee minute. As you can see, we're kind of gradually making our way forward up the pitch here. The money spent on Jack could be used elsewhere. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Jack Grealish, but I just think for 70, 80 million, it's just a lot of money on one player when we could do so much more with that. And, you know, when we consider that, you know, the rumours are there that the Cronkies are going to invest, but we haven't seen it yet. So we've got to work on the basis that we'll spend what we can make from selling players. And, you know, if we're going to drop suddenly 80 million of that on one player, it just seems foolish to me.
Yeah.
So another player then, Chris, linked with going out of the club. And I know we've sort of talked about this before. I'm not sure, have you heard anything more on this one? William. Obviously links to Inter Miami. Will you be sad to see him go if he does go? And as I say, have you heard anything more rumor-wise?
Well, I've got to say, I'll be absolutely devastated if he was to let no. Look, it makes sense, wouldn't it, to try and offload him? You know, with all due respect to Willian, who has had a fantastic career, a successful career overall in the Premier League, and who brought a lot of quality. He's just past his best now. And you know, I've got to, and I'm joking about it now, but I've got to admit and hold my hands up that when we did sign him, I thought at the time it was a clever bit of business. He's Premier League experienced, always been sort of a standout player for Chelsea, and he'd bring a bit of quality. But how wrong we were. I don't know what the reason is for his form this season. You can't really, you can't sit there and say it's because it's a new club and new league, because he's come from Chelsea. The only excuse he's got really is that obviously he's tried to adapt to a new style of play, new surroundings. But even with his experience and his standards over the years, there's no excuse for how he's performed this season. I know he's provided a few assists, and he's only scored the one goal. But we desperately need to try and offload him this summer. You're not going to have any sort of top quality clubs come in for him, willing to pay anything extravagant. But I think our only hope at the moment is the MLS in America. There's obviously been rumours that Inter Miami are looking at him and want to bring him to the MLS. So I think it's definitely one to keep an eye on. And I think, if the suitable offer does come along, then the club will hopefully see some common sense and do the right thing by letting him go. Because, based on what we've seen this season, I just don't know where he fits in going forward. He's not good enough to start. And, if he's not good enough to start, then, obviously you'd usually just start him on the bench and have him as a rotational player. But when you've got Pepe, Martinelli, and other wingers, I just don't see where he can fit in moving forward, and I don't think it would be very wise using him next season either. So I think we'll do very well to find a buyer and to offload him. Can I see the club being ruthless again and doing what they did in January by sort of terminating his contract? Probably not, because obviously he's on high wages and he's still got a couple of years left on his contract. So there's certainly, obviously, the ideal solution is to sell him. And fingers crossed, not to sound disrespectful, but fingers crossed that is what happens, because he's not good enough anymore. Simple as that. And it's time we sort of focus on giving the other lads a chance instead of him.
Yeah, absolutely. NDB30TV, let's set up a GoFundMe page for taxi to the airport. I would, but unfortunately, I've already got one set up for Bellerin. So
I said I'd drive. I drive Bellerin. They're my.
Oh well, there we go. Okay, we'll do the GoFundMe for Willie, and then Gunnar Sana keeps saying I will fly to England just to drive Willie into the airport. And just while we're on that, just curiosity, there's quite a lot watching live tonight, which is great to see, and thank you all for being with us. Love to know where you're all from. So just drop in the comments very quickly where you're all watching from. We'd love to know how far this is reaching out now.
Yeah.
Ryan, William linking up with Ryan Shawcross. All right, so Lottie, if William goes, obviously there's place for a winger, and obviously we need that sort of attacking midfielder, number 8 type player as well. And a couple of players that we have been linked with are these two from Lyon, who obviously Hassan Ouar, who we were linked with last summer, and the deal didn't go through. And then obviously you've got Memphis Depay, formerly of Manchester United, who has been in the Premier League before, but has been doing good things out at Lyon. Now he is rumoured to be going to Barcelona, but it's not done and dusted. And I did see a rumour earlier on that he's not going to be going to Barcelona, and that potentially his future lies elsewhere. Would you want to see either of these two in an Arsenal shirt next season?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen much of these two, but from what I've seen on Twitter, like just short clips, I wouldn't mind. But again, it's a case of how they'd fit into the team and what we've got now and what deadwood we can get rid of in order to fit them in. I don't think Arsenal are going to be ruthless enough to get rid of the deadwood straight away. It's going to take some time, but possibly I wouldn't mind seeing them in Arsenal shirts.
Okay. G?
It really just kind of depends on the summer we have. I think, for me, is a good player. When we were linked with him last summer, I was happy. I think he is a player that comes into our team and improves our side. From what I've seen of him, he's one of those players where I feel as though like he's not gonna necessarily come in and set the set the Premiership alight. I think again he's one of those players that could come in and take quite a while to actually transition and settle into the side. So for me, I have my reservations. I think I've made it clear on this show that I'm looking at the Premiership, I'm looking at the Championship, I'm looking at players that can come in and just do their thing straight away. And I think there is my reservations come from the fact that I think he will take time to transition and settle into the club. But he's a quality player. He's a top quality player. He's not going to get you 15 goals from midfield, or even kind of 10, 15 assists either. But just the way he plays, he's a tidy player. He's got good footwork. He can pick a pass. And I think obviously being in the Premiership, it could work, but I could also see there being a potential that it not quite working as well. So yeah, with him, I'm not going to be disappointed if we're linked with him and if we sign him. I do personally feel as though we should be targeting different players. But again, I wouldn't be disappointed if I was signed for Arsenal. Now, with Depay, I just think to myself, I'm not too sure about this one. Obviously, if Willian goes, we need a replacement. He is younger, 27 years old. He's gonna get you a couple. He's gonna get you goals. He's pacey, he's strong. He can take a good free kick. But it's going to be one of those signings where for me, it's I wouldn't be over the moon if we signed him. It would be one of those things where I can kind of see the logic in signing him. But I just think to myself, do I want to see him play over Saka, Pepe, Martinelli? And the answer is no. I would probably prefer any of those guys at Arsenal starting over him. So he is a good player, but I've not actually seen the links. I thought pretty much that the deal with Barcelona was pretty much done and dusted. But yeah, look, I think both those players come into Arsenal, and I think they improve Arsenal's first team. And because the first team we have, let's face it, is so poor in terms of quality, like real quality. The depth is not there. So, you bring in Depay and you get rid of Willian, that's an improvement. You bring in Aouar, he's a quality player, it's going to improve the side. But I just feel as though there are better players out there that we could target. Okay, excellent. Chris, I'll give you the opportunity on these two as well, because I think it's, realistically from the talk, Aouar could be 30, 35 million and Depay free. So all of a sudden, Depay he's still a reasonably good player. For 35 million for the two of them, would it be a good deal, or is it something you would want to see?
I'm in favour of more Aouar, to be honest with you. I think Depay, the move to Barcelona is pretty much done and dusted, according to reports. So I find it very unlikely if anyone else, let alone Arsenal, were to come in for him now. But with Aouar, we were linked with him in January when we were also looking at Partey, and obviously we were on about acquiring another central midfielder. And as much as Basuma is my first sort of choice target, Aouar should be the second name on the list, because he's young, he's talented, and he's shown he can do it on a regular basis as well. I think he'd be a very, very good player. I know I mentioned earlier, and like you mentioned a moment ago, Stephen, according to the sort of the French media, his price may have come down a little bit. And 35 million shouldn't be sniffed at all. If those reports are indeed true, then we should go in and look into that straight away. I feel it'd be a fantastic addition, especially without Champions League and Europa League football. So I'd certainly like Aouar, and even if Depay was sort of not close to agreeing a move to another club. I still have my reservations about him. Actually, I know, and I appreciate he was a lot younger, and he was still quite raw when he came to England and played for Man United. But I'd prefer to go for a winger who we know can come in and go right from the start. I mentioned Alan St. Maximin earlier. I think he'd be a fantastic choice. We know he's quality in this league. He's again still relatively young, and he'd offer us a lot more, in my opinion. And again, I just think on the topic of wingers, I think there's a lot of ifs and buts with this one, with this certain position this summer, and I think it will depend on what happens with someone like Willian. Maybe some others, but you've got Saka, who's, let's face it, is going to be a starter for us every week. He's undroppable. And now you've got Pepe, a confident Nicola Pepe, who looks like he's now sort of coming out a bit more and showing his full potential and showing his full ability. Been really impressed with him this season, and if he can keep that up and continuing to improve like he has done over recent months, then again we're probably going to have another regular starter who's going to be undroppable. So I'd like to see maybe a new left winger come in, but like I say, I think it depends on a lot of things, and in the meantime I'd like to see us focus on an attacking midfielder, a central midfielder, and obviously certainly a right back, and even a backup left back as well. So time will tell with what happens on that front, but certainly with Hussamoa, I'd welcome him with open arms for sure.
Okay. What about Nelson? Where do you think his future lies? I think his future lies probably Brighton, Norwich, somewhere like that, because it won't be in the Arsenal team. Lottie, thoughts on Sander Berge from Sheffield United?
To be honest, I haven't been watching him, so I can't really answer that one, Stephen. Sorry.
All right, no worries. Jay?
Yeah, you know what? He's an all right player. Again, for me, he's one of those players that I think if we signed him, I would be pretty. For me, it would be kind of underwhelming. I think he's a good player. I think he's done well in that Sheffield United side. But look, I think we made it clear the type of players and the personnel that we want to see. I think if we were to sign him and not sign the likes of Basuma and Awa, then I think Arsenal fans will feel pretty deflated. When you put him in the mix with those names. If we signed Basuma and in addition Sanderberg, then I think that would make some sense. Because I think the other thing to be said is that we need numbers in midfield. When we think about the likes of Odegaard and Ceballos leaving, and then obviously El Nene, Torreira, Guendouzi, some of these players that are probably going to be moved on. We're not looking really and truly for just an attacking mid or defensive mid. We're probably going to need, depending on what happens with these players, we're probably going to need at least 2, if not maybe 3 or 4 midfielders. So, as like Chris said, there's a lot of if, buts, or maybes really in terms of what we're going to do, and I think a lot of it depends on the existing players that we have. But for me, if Sanderberg was the only signing in the centre mid position, it wouldn't be. It just wouldn't be for me. I think if we signed him in addition to a Basuma or an Awa, then I'd be up for that.
Okay. Ryan, how come G's changed his name again? Because he's calmed down.
Yeah.
All right, I'm conscious of time here, and there's not really much more to go through. I mean, we could go through all night players that we've been linked with, because it's ridiculous how many we get linked with. And as you can see, I've sort of been gradually working our way up the pitch here. So the last sort of area to look at is the strikers. Now, I've only got one sort of picture here, but we've been linked with a few. We've been linked with this guy, Tony, at Brentford. We've been linked with Patson Daka at RB Salzburg, and Edouard at Celtic. Lottie, for you, if you had your choice, who would you be picking?
Ooh. If honestly, I don't
Or
know.
is it somebody else other than those? Is there somebody else that you've maybe heard would be linked with it?
Honestly, I don't know. I really don't know. They're all great players, and it's also a case if we're going to keep Lacazette or not. I like Lacazette. I mean, him and Aubameyang can't play together, as we all know. So honestly, I don't know.
Do you think Lacazette will go?
I think if we get the right price for him, I think he will.
Okay. If he stays, would you give him a new contract?
Yes, definitely. He's got more drive than Aubameyang does at the moment. He knows what it means to be an Arsenal player, especially after he was benched.
Okay. Chris, then, for you, striker-wise, I mean, firstly, is there anybody that we've missed out in terms of link to the striker department, and who would you want to go for?
You may have mentioned him. I might have misheard, but obviously Mr. Dembele is another one. Atletico Madrid. I think he's on loan there from Lyon. But and he's had a difficult season over in Spain as well. I must admit, I'm excited by Patson Daka. I think he's a very good young up and coming striker who's been scoring goals for fun in Austria. But also intrigued by the links with Austin Edouard at Celtic. I think he's one to keep an eye on. I know he's been strongly linked with Leicester and a reunion with Brendan Rodgers. So we may miss out on him. But as Lottie said, it's especially, I know we've said during the course of this show, this transfer will depend on if this happens, etc., etc. But especially with what happens up front with our strikers, if Nketiah, Lacazette both go, then that leaves us with just obviously Aubameyang, Balogun. And I think it's important we don't forget about Balogun. He's just signed a new contract. He's obviously been guaranteed game time with the first team. He was actually pictured in the London Colney dressing room with the first team the other day. And some were saying that's obviously maybe an indication that he is going to be very much part of the first team squad next season. So it's important to obviously remember about him and consider that when we're talking about other potential incomings up front. I must admit, obviously, if Nketiah and Lacazette were to both go and we do just have Aubameyang and Balogun, if say Aubameyang got injured, is Balogun good enough to come straight in and fill his place? And will he be banging in the goals for us each week? It's questionable. It's a big risk. So again, depending on what happens with Lacazette, if he was to go, for example, then I'd like to think would look to bring in another striker, and Daka and Edouard would be sort of my two options. Although saying that, Ivan Toney has really impressed me this season, and I think I'd be very surprised if Nketiah is still here next season as well. He's hardly played. He's young. He's obviously going to need to be playing. He's going to be wanting to be playing as well. Regular first team football. And I think he's another one we could maybe get a decent fee for. Maybe at least 15 million, 20 million, something like that. Again, it's just going to depend on a lot of things. If Lacazette goes, then yes, I'd hope to bring in another striker. But if he stays, then I think we're going to focus on other positions. Okay.
Excellent. Right. Well, listen, we could go on all night talking about transfers, but we've been on for an hour and a half now already. So I think it's probably time to start to wind things up a bit. Chris, Lottie, thank you so much for being on with us. Lottie, if anybody wants to follow you and interact with you, how would they do it?
They just come find me on Twitter. You can see my Twitter handle online on screen. Come check out my blog. I'm working on the Brighton piece at the moment. It should be out in the next day or so. And
excellent. Yeah, I'll look forward to reading it. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, guys. Pleasure as always. As you can see in the picture there, that's my Twitter username at @CDavison_AFC. Obviously, keeping all the fans up to date with the latest news surrounding the club, and fingers crossed, I can be providing, and I will be providing, lots of positive and exciting updates throughout the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. He's already been doing some of that. And make sure, if you're following Chris on Twitter, turn on your notifications and get those updates as soon as they come out. I know I have it switched on myself. Jay, over to you for your favourite part of the show.
Yeah, well, thank you. Obviously, massive thanks. Kind of echo what Stephen said. Massive thanks to Lottie and Chris for coming on the show once again. You guys are becoming like regular fixtures. Or features, I should say, on the show. But yeah, thank you for everybody who has tuned in and continues to tune in. Massively appreciate all your support. From the beginning. You can follow us on all our socials. You can follow us on Facebook, which is Cannon Chatter. You can follow us on Instagram, which is @Cannon_Chatter. And you can follow us on our Twitter account, which is where most of you interact with us. So our Twitter account is @CannonChatter. Stephen's Twitter account is @SBCannonChatter. And my Twitter account is now @GTalksArsenal, because the season's over. I'm no longer in the mood to rant. I'm hopefully looking forward to a good summer. I'm optimistic. So G Rants Arsenal may make a return during the summer or beginning of next season, but for now, I'm G Talks Arsenal. Please do make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications, and hit that like button. And yeah, just want to wish you all a massive, really, lovely evening, and can't wait to see you soon.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, I echo everything that G's just said. Thank you to everybody. If anybody has any last quick questions, drop them in very quickly now. Do you know what? There's a lot of channels now sort of seem to be taking a break over the summer when the season's off. We're not going to do that. We're going to continue putting out content. We have some stuff lined up, and we will be doing sort of Rumour Mill updates, hopefully on a daily basis, probably starting in a couple of days' time. There'll be short sort of 10, 15-minute pre-recorded videos that will drop out just with all the latest transfer rumours and stuff. And we will be doing some other things as well. And that's kind of it. Let's see, any last comments? Great show again, top panel, and obviously top chat box. And so, yeah, I mean, do you know what? The chat has been amazing tonight. Cheers, lads, and I enjoyed the stream. Great show. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Gunnar San. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy your evening as well. Thank you, and make sure that you've hit that subscribe button. So, unless there's anything else, I think it's time to wind it up. We will be back again at some point this week. I'm not sure when. I think we'll probably do a weekly sort of roundup like this to cover off all the rumours as well, but we'll work on that. We're coming up with stuff, as I say, all the time. But we will see you again later on this week. So thanks for joining us, and have a good evening.